Let me show you different techniques that you can do with 3D printed fashion, and a little bit more for those who might have in their schools, open spaces, maker spaces, or access to a laser. So the first that I talked about was the 3D printed fabrics with flexible filaments. And I've already told you a little bit about it. And that's producing fabric using the flexible filaments with the infill method, like removing the top and bottom layer in order for us to produce the textiles. And it really is an interesting method to produce textiles, because you can really reproduce different types of textiles and different types of flexibility and different types of structures, and then that can have a different feel. So you're not limited to have just one type of textile, but you can really vary depending on the settings that you use. Then another method is sublime printing, and sublime printing is a method that was developed by Brigitte Koch. She's a researcher and designer, and she was thinking about like the limitations that we have with filaments, because usually when we print, then the colors of the textile was limited only to the color of the filament, but from the aspect from the fashion, we want to work with different textile patterns. We sometimes want to use floral patterns, or we want to give like really colorful, bright colors, but keep it still thin. And she thought about like the sublimation method that you can use in traditional textile fields to print different print on top of a t-shirt. And since the sublimation method works on heat, she thought that with 3D printing we are also using heat. So would it be possible to sublimate print some pattern on 3D printed textiles using sublimation papers? And she researched it and figure that it is very much well possible. And now we are able to produce these wonderful prints using sublime printing method. And we only need to have like a transparent or white filament. So we are no longer limited to the colors of the producers of this flexible filament. Another method that is quite very, I would say, inclusive and welcoming for beginners is hand 3D printing. Hand 3D printing is a wonderful method how to start with 3D printed fashion, specifically with students who might have a little bit of reservations with the machines, or who would like to start like with an easy start. And you can use a 3D pen to design also wonderful textiles, wonderful lace, but also to produce like different ornaments and decorations on top of the textile that you will be 3D printing. So for example, if you want to do embroidery or beading or any 3D effect on the ornaments, then hand 3D printing and printing with a 3D pen is a wonderful opportunity to do so. Another technique that I have to mention is modular fashion. Modular fashion is in general now very popular in fashion because it's a aspect or a way to design fashion, so it doesn't need any glue or stitching to be put together. It also thinks about sustainability and how to be cut from the fabric, so it leaves almost zero waste. But we figured that modular fashion works even better with 3D printed fashion. The reason for it is because the material that we are printing with the 3D printed fashion usually has a little bit of structure, and the structure makes the 3D printed fabric a little bit less prone to detach. So the connections, the interlocks that you create are stronger, so it even works better to keep the 3D printed garments together and not fall apart. But another thing that is very wonderful about modular fashion and using it with 3D printing is that when we are laser cutting or cutting the parts the modules from the fabric, we are always left with a little bit of waste. But when we are designing and printing, we can only design and print the specific modules that we need, leaving us with almost zero waste, which is also a nice way how to promote and work on sustainability on the sustainability aspect. And also when we are done with the part. So for example, let's imagine that we have 3D printed modular trousers. Then we can deassemble the trousers and build, for example, a t-shirt. And when we are done with the t-shirt, then we can deassemble the t-shirt and make a shirt. And when we don't want a shirt anymore, we can create a tank top, we can create a bag. So you can always like deassemble the parts and create something new from the modules that you already have. Which is also a nice way how to not create any additional waste. Here is an example of a modular t-shirt that Bara has designed and that we wore for a conference. And these pieces, this t-shirt is not connected, it's just solely made. It's on t-shirts, I would say just top. This top is solely made from modular parts that have been interlocked together, and they can be deassembled again and used for other purpose. And it's not, as I said, we're not using any glue, we're not using anything to put the top together. And you can also use modular fashion to create these wonderful, unique 3D designs. For example, we had a type that looked like a flower. When we talk about like how do we construct the garment, because most of us don't have at home a big 3D printer, and we usually have a question like how do we use the small 3D printers that we have to produce the garments. One of the ways is modular fashion. And create modules, but you can also just separate your patterns into parts and then connect the pieces together using either a 3D pen, or you can use iron, solder, or any heat to connect the pieces together. You can also work with 3D printed textiles as if it was traditional textiles, so you can use a sewing machine to sew it together, or you can also hand stitch the parts yourself with your hands. The additional pieces that I wanted to talk about is the modules that you can use using the laser, because before until this part, then the techniques are usually used for 3D printed fashion and are the ones that we usually promote to be used in the classes. But in addition to that, maybe some of you might be having maker spaces and also or access to a laser. And we usually say that if you're creating fashion, you might need a mannequin or at least some type of mannequin to try and see how the prints that you have created actually look together, and if there are some adjustments, and it really helps to enhance the experience from the classes. And either you can buy a mannequin or you can create your own. And the wonderful thing about creating own mannequins, or for students, but also for you, is that they can really create a mannequin that works and resembles their bodies or the body of the person that they will be producing the piece for. By piece, I mean the garment. And they can use another very interesting softwares to do so, and it's quite easy. You only need few softwares to actually be able to create a model of the body. There is also a mobile app called V3D Look, which can using two pictures. So you just use the app, open the app, and you make two pictures, and it takes virtually, digitally your measurements. So it measures your size, the size of your body, and then you get all of the measurements back as a number. And then with the open source software Make Human, you can design your body in a virtual space, so you can create this digital avatar. Then you just cut the torso in any digital software that can handle like big objects, and then you use slicer for 360 to produce files that can be then cut with using laser. And then you have this all of these parts. We were using polyurethane because we wanted to create mannequins that can be pinned, that you can pin in. So they are not hard, they're squishy, fluffy, and you just glue them together. And one of the reasons why I'm mentioning this is because when we were doing that with our students, most of the students really they couldn't believe their eyes how small the mannequins were, even though they were doing the measurements, even though they were taking the measurements of themselves, and they were really doubting the app because they were just really doubtful and not understanding how small can be the mannequins, and they were measuring themselves. And I also did the same thing, to be honest. when I laser cutted mine, I couldn't believe it, and we all realized how we suffer with body dysmorphia, and how actually like not real, how we don't see ourselves the way we actually are. And it was really nice to see on the students like the relief and seeing their body in the real representation and how small they actually are. And we also talked about it, like about body image and body issues. So at the end, everyone was like, "Oh, it's okay. I can keep healthy, but I can eat." So it was a very nice experience also to see the students with their smiles on and understanding that their body image shifted from that day, and they saw themselves much more realistically than they did have prior to this experience. Let me show you some 3D printed fashion projects that the students have created. The first one that I want to show you is a project of Hannah. Hanka decided that she would like to create a 3D printed corset, and she wanted to use 3D printing to create materials and structures that are not usually simple to do with textiles. So she decided to design this bony corset, and this entire piece was 3D printed. Hanka had no prior experiences before. She has never used a 3D printer. She has never used any 3D printing software. She has never done 3D modeling, and at the end, she was able to produce this beautiful final piece, and only using Tinkercad. So the software that is for free, the free 3D modeling software that you can access easily. The piece, it took a little bit of time to 3D print this piece. So she was printing it for 3 days, and then she needed one more day to assemble it together. She wanted to hand stitch it because she wanted to look very clean, and since she was using transparent filament, she also wanted to not have any seams visible. And then she used just used, but I don't have a picture in here. She used filaments to to connect the corset, and also at the back she used modular fashion to connect the skirt. So the little skirt that she has here in the bottom was designed with modular pieces. To produce this project, Hanka used about 600 grams of filament, which is like about 70% of the spool. Then Isabel is the project that I've showed you already. Isabel was very into tennis and sportswear, so she really wanted to recreate like tennis wear using the sublimation method that she has fell in love with. And she wanted to create like this colorful printed shirt with the mini skirt, and we have taken a picture of the project before it was finished, but she also have 3D printed buttons that she then hand stitched on top of the shirt, and also she added a small pocket. To print this piece, it was much faster. She printed it in a day. Of course, like it took longer because she was experimenting and figuring out the settings, but the actual number, the raw number that it took to 3D print this part. The 3D print this project was 1 day, and she used about 120 grams of filament to produce this piece. And of course, we weren't printing during day and night. One of the great things about 3D printed fashion is that you can just leave the piece, even if the piece takes 8 hours, which Isabel's didn't, Hanka's did, but Isabel's pieces were quite faster. But even if you have a piece that takes 8 hours to print, then you can just leave the printer to print the piece and then come back in the morning and the piece is done. Last project that I want to show you is project of Emma, and Emma wanted to create a piece that was a little bit more like a costume. She went more to the artistic creative side. So she has designed these hard structures, these bones, and she also used flexible filament to print on textiles, which has created this wonderful 3D printed 3D objects and 3D designs using a textile. And she has connected all of the pieces using transparent filament and 3D pen. So nothing in here is glued, nothing in here is connected or sewn. She only used the 3D pen to put the entire piece together. And for this project, Emma has used about 250 grams of filament in total, about 60 grams of the flexible one, and the rest of it was for the hard part of the parts of the bones. Emma and Isabel, both of them never had experience with 3D printing. They really started like a tabula rasa. They had no experience with using the machines, and at the end they were able to produce these pieces almost without my help. There was only a little bit of things that they were asking me about, but after the program they were able to produce the pieces themselves.